some of you might not be aware, is an organization which helps people in setting up and managing quality schools with a lot of our deliverables. I would not like to explain those here, but we are into a lot of schools all over the country. And when we set up schools, we need people, those who can add value and those who can, come up with programs which are beyond a normal chalk and talk. And Creya is one such organization which has been adding value to a lot of our schools with their STEM learning programs. Creya is a Hyderabad-based organization. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we have Praveen sir as one of the co-founders of the company. And we're fortunate enough to have Mr. Venki, who's also, his name is Datala V. Reddy, but pyar se we call him Venki. Venki sir. So welcome Venki sir, welcome Praveen sir. And they are the people who usually do not prefer to be in media and in news. So I literally had to, convince both of them for a week's time that, we should tell people, because we all know how online learning is happening. People are trying to use WhatsApp, people are trying to use Google Meets, WebEx, Zoom, whatnot. Teachers are not really prepared for an online session. It is very difficult to conduct an online classes. I somewhere feel that the energy what a teacher needs to take one online class is double the energy what a teacher needs in a normal class. So in all these times, everybody is trying to, try their wisdom, because there is no proven technique, or there is no precedence of what has happened due to COVID-19. So as an organization, Creya also has, solutions which are online. So I thought, why not to use their experience and also utilize the Sunday to understand what STEM learning is, and how STEM can help students in general to learn 21st century skills, as well as how can STEM help in this tough time, and how can STEM be practiced by the school or by the teachers without doing much of we have an ID called Principal SSIS. Sir, you'll have to stop sharing your content. I do not know how have you become the presenter of the event, because presenter is Praveen sir. Thank you, sir. Just a minute, there was some technology. I request everybody to put their microphone on mute, please. Yes. So Praveen sir, as a layman, though we have worked closely in a lot of schools, as a layman, I would like to begin with the first question. What is STEM approach of learning? And would you have anything to tell us or show us what STEM learning is all about? Because everybody is talking about STEM learning. What exactly is STEM learning? How is it official, sir?
That's a great question to start with, Dhirenji. First of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining, and I'm honored for the opportunity to address all of you, experts in the field of education, shaping the lives of lakhs of children in this country, building the future of this country. So thank you for coming today. And Dhirenji, thank you for the opportunity. Like you said, I am not a proficient or an eloquent speaker, so I'm going to apologize for any bumbling speech on my behalf. Right? Having said that, coming back to the question that you asked, STEM, I'm going to talk about that in the presentation, but STEM historically is something which has always powered civilizations. STEM is what makes a civilization successful. And this is not a new term. I mean, we coined the word STEM recently, but from times immemorial, STEM is what powered a civilization. So, STEM learning is something which makes us special and unique, makes us innovate, right? Builds the quotient of innovation in students. And that is STEM learning. So we're going to talk about it in the presentation a little bit, because in the presentation I intend to talk about STEM and then come to online, because there are a lot of misconceptions, there are a lot of definitions of STEM as such and why it is required. So I'm going to take some time to address that as well. So in the presentation. Yeah. So Dhirenji, should I get started?
Please, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. So
maybe about 70 odd participants.
Okay.
Please carry on.
Okay. Let me then share my screen and then. I hope you are able to see my screen. Dhirenji, can you please confirm my screen is visible to you?
Not as of now, sir. It takes some time.
Okay. Let me just check.
Yes, sir. It has started coming now. Yes, S. Ganore is saying screen is not visible. So it is to me as well. But the content is, the screen says that Praveen is starting to share content.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Shashi here.
Praveen sir, can you hear me? Praveen sir, can you hear me?
Mr. Praveen has switched off his mic. I think you need to switch it on.
Dhirenji, are you able to?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see?
Yes. Now we can. Now we can.
Okay.
I can see the screen. Just 1 second, Praveen sir. I can see the screen. Anybody who is unable to see the screen can write in the chat box. Can see, yeah. People can see. So please start.
Okay. Thank you. I've put my laptop on full screen mode. Dhirenji, I would request your help in case there is a question in between on the chat box. I would request your help.
Sure, sir. I'll do.
With that, let me get started. I would like to start this discussion with a fundamental question. What is the purpose of education? There are all the experts around this room know the answer to this, rather answers to this question. But I would like to call upon an expert as eminent as the audience here. He is Sir Ken Robinson to answer the question. He says, I will let you read it if you like, but bottom line of what he says is you need to educate them for the future that we don't see what it is, right? We don't know the future. We need to educate them for the future. This is what an expert says. Our customers, the students, also have a view of what they want from education. I will use Calvin to demonstrate. The Gen Y, which is our customer right now, they want opportunity, they want skills to compete, right? And interestingly, he says tough global economy, which is what we are going to inherit in the next few days if it's not already there, right? I mean, they want opportunity, they want skills to compete. But what kind of future are we talking about, right? I mean, we say, like Robinson says, educate now for the future, but what kind of future, right? I'm sure most of you would have seen this, but I thought in terms of COVID, it's important to be comforting to understand that human race over the last 2 decades, when we talk about life-changing innovations, I talk about things like printing press. When it was discovered, the religion was democratized, right? Because Bible was printed. Things like that, which has changed how the world lives. Now, in the last 2 decades, we have innovated so much that we have far outstripped what we have innovated in the entire existence of human life before those 2 decades. I say it is comforting because I'm hoping with the ability to innovate that we have acquired and the pace at which it is happening, hopefully the vaccine for the virus also comes out. So it's good to know that human race has mastered innovation. And most of that innovation is powered by technology. It is technology-powered innovation. Like you're talking about drones, you're talking about Internet of Things, you're talking about mobile phones, you're talking about satellites, you're talking about space travel. Most of it is powered by technology today. So we need to educate children, our students, to deal with the change that is going to be powered by technology and innovation made possible by that technology. So we are looking at a tech-powered innovative world where change is the only constant and children need to be educated to work with that change. That's the type of education, that is the purpose of education that Sir Ken Robinson was talking about, that Calvin was demanding that we provide. Integrated STEM is an approach that is used to develop attitudes and competencies to thrive in unknown and uncertain future. Right? When we say unknown and uncertain future, all we know that is constant about that kind of change, and integrated STEM is an approach to develop skills, attitudes, competencies to thrive in that. So that is integrated STEM. So when most schools, when people come and talk to them about STEM, they are talking about technology, but they are not talking about integrated STEM as an approach to build attitudes and skills. So I just wanted to leave that definition with the group. For those of you who are not thinking about it in that fashion, STEM is an approach to build attitudes and competencies. Sergi, any questions so far? Should I go ahead? Okay. I'll put that as a no, so I'll move on. So here is a definition of integrated STEM. Basically, STEM is an approach where we take concepts from science and mathematics, right? And integrate them with concepts from technology and engineering. A simpler way to think about it is STEM is an approach where we give problems to children, where they work with those problems which are set in the context of it is either a technology problem or engineering problem we give to them, which is again a real world problem. And they solve that problem using concepts that they learn in their classroom: science, mathematics, social sciences, English language, arts, and other disciplines. Right? That is a definition of integrated STEM that I have seen, which is most relevant and most comprehensive. right. Um, why does STEM work and how does it work? Right. Why does it work in developing those skills? Because STEM focuses on real world problems. STEM focuses on challenging the students with an approach, with giving them a problem and asking them to solve it. But it doesn't end there. It asks them to solve the problem by using technology, right? Technology could be software, it could be devices, it could be tools, whatever. I mean, a pen is a technology for me. A broomstick, for that matter, is a tool that matter. It doesn't really matter, but you use all of this. For physics teachers, people who come from physics background, broom is a simple background. Right? Broom is a simple machine, right? The end of machine. So software, devices, and tools. So STEM ask them to use technology to solve a problem. Ask them to use technology to solve on using concepts which seem disjointed. They're not. It looks integrate seemingly unrelated concepts while solving the problem and using technology, right? And the focus, it emphasizes on developing 21st century skills, right? Skills like accessing information, creatively solving problems, teamwork, and collaboration. And I'll talk about briefly about all the skills that come under the bucket of 21st century skills. But that is what STEM does. And it doesn't do it in isolation, right? I mean, you can always throw a problem at a child and then say, do it, which is what we sometimes do in project work. But it scaffolds how they think using design thinking as a framework. So an integration of so many different aspects that are listed on the slide is what makes iSTEM work in building aptitudes and competencies to thrive in a future that we do not know of. I want to go back, look at the chat box and see if there are questions.
No, there are no questions as of now, sir. So would you also tell us what is design thinking approach?
So design thinking is an approach which is adapted by many innovative organizations like Apple, Microsoft, Google, all of that, where they talk about developing solutions to problems by keeping customer in focus, right? The problem doesn't start by defining a problem, but by going to a customer, understanding what customer does, what is that he is complaining about. In fact, most times when they complain, it is the symptoms. It's not the underlying problem. For example, you go to a doctor, you tell them, sir, I have cold, I have pain here, I have this, and he seems to ask some unrelated questions to diagnose the underlying problem, right? In similar way, design thinking focuses on working with the customer and building solutions. Simply put, I'll give you one-line definition, Dhirenji, of what design thinking is. Design thinking is a process of developing solutions for customers that work on how the customer thinks it will work. It works exactly like how customer thinks it works. And that is what design thinking enables. So for any innovation to work, it has to be something that the customer can adapt and create value for him. And which is why that framework has become very, very important for organizations to develop innovative products today. So that is design thinking in a brief. Now, what a good iSTEM program should do is to enable children to think as to how to develop solutions, because anything that is related to change is about developing solutions for something that they don't know of, which is why design thinking becomes such an integral part of any iSTEM curriculum solution that you want to adapt into your school to develop your children.
So, sir, as a layman, if I have to understand, do you mean that the English, Hindi, math, sciences, and other languages, whatever our children are studying in the school, do you think there's anything missing because of which STEM has to come in and design thinking has to come in? And what's your comment about it? Like the general subjects, because a normal school would feel that I have English, I have Hindi, math, science, I have best of the teachers to teach all that. Why should I now go in for a STEM education or design thinking approach?
Thank you for the question, Dhirenji. So I'll go back one slide up, Okay, and so far all these disciplines exist in silos, right? There are walls. You teach Hindi, a Hindi teacher teaches Hindi inside the classroom, and then she or he walks out of the classroom, and in comes a physics teacher. Right? There is no relationship between these subjects. Even today in engineering colleges as well, I mean, forget schools, even in universities, when we teach these disciplines, they are not taught, they're taught in a siloed fashion. But however, when you are applying a problem, the mindset is to borrow solutions from different disciplines and integrate them. That ability to see connections between disciplines and apply them to solve a problem is something that you have to develop in a child when they are really young, right? Because when they grow up, it is difficult to develop because they're fully formed in their mental makeup. So it is very difficult to mold them. So it is important to focus on bringing integration between disciplines, pull down the walls, put them all together. I'll give you an example for us to understand this. Right?
Sure.
Think of a problem wherein let's pick an umbrella maker. Right? An umbrella maker wants to approach and then say, look, I want you to make a machine for me that basically cuts cloth for making my umbrellas, right? It has to be cut into that particular shape, right? So right there, and that's the problem he has come up with. So he doesn't want to give you, or he doesn't know the details of how that machine should work, all of that. So a design thinking student will basically get in and then say, okay, what is the standard size of the umbrella that is used? So for what purpose? If it umbrellas for rains, what would be the standard size? Umbrellas, if you're using
Praveen sir's voice.
Praveen sir, people are saying you're not audible.
He's clearly audible, maybe that there are some problems at that end.
Okay, carry on, sir. Carry on, sir. That must be, this was asked by Prima ma'am. Prima ma'am, please check your network. Carry on, Praveen sir.
Am I audible to the general audience?
Yes, yes. And I would request everybody to type their responses rather than unmuting and speaking. Carry on, sir. Carry on.
Okay. So going back to the example I was giving, so the student would go back and then kind of research, the different kinds of umbrellas out there. The umbrellas used when for rain, the big black ones were used as fashion statements. What would be the typical size? And then come back with a particular size. And then he builds a machine which kind of, works like your compass in your geometry box, right? Which can then cut. And then brings in the concept of radius, circumference, and all of that. So imagine a sixth grader trying to build this. So he's using the concepts that you have taught in your classroom, concepts of circumference and radius and circles, all of that. And then he is trying to apply it to either a mechanical device or a robotic device and thinking of, applying those formulae as he understands to build that machine, right? Therein you have basically brought in an element of mathematics into a technology problem. And he's also researching trends, right? Social trends to figure out what is the size of the umbrella. So we have brought in a couple of different concepts together, and that helps children do two things. One, to understand what sort of data they need, which is a very important skill, and also to basically work with concepts from different subjects. And so that is what STEM, a truly integrative STEM does. And but however, in a mathematics class, you may give a problem like that, but then it becomes a theoretical exercise, right? You don't bring in the application. You don't see if the concept that you have used is truly solving the problem or not. So, in fact, sometimes the solution need not be using the same concept. Different concepts can be applied. Children can choose to use different concepts. This example doesn't allow different concepts, but there are a lot of examples where children can use concepts from different disciplines, in fact, to solve the problem, right? So, which is what is missing in a traditional classroom. right? Which is why you need to create spaces in the school where children can practice this kind of thinking. They can practice and make it a habit, make it part of themselves.
Mhm. Sir, I have three questions, and I think I can integrate all these three questions since we're talking about an integrated approach. So I have Mr. Mukesh saying how to involve preschool students in STEM. Then there's a question, as we are national oblique state oblique international curriculum driven, how this approach can be embedded in the teaching learning in schools. And then there is a question from Mr. Ashish Bhatnagar saying, sir, how can we integrate the steps of design thinking into school curriculum? So bottom line, Praveen sir, is when we are like driven by CBSE or IB or IGCSE, how do we add STEM learning and design thinking into our curriculum? So what is your approach? How does Creya works as an addition to the normal school curriculum?
Okay. So,
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Sorry, Dhirendra, to interpret in between. I think we need to allow Praveen sir to be present for all the PPTs because we're taking the questions so early, I feel.
Sorry to disturb you. Actually, let them start to complete the full session.
Yeah.
And we can have
Yes.
the question. He is explaining very beautifully. This interruption is going on actually. Sorry to disturb you. It's
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah,
Praveen sir,
and I
carry on
also
with
feel
your
the same
presentation. Sure. Thank you.
okay. Sir, should I continue or address that? Because I would like to hold on to those questions because some of them get answered in the PPT in the flow, and then we can come back and address that. I request you to hold on to this question so I can. Right?
Sure.
Okay. Going back, can you see the PPT?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Something is happening. It doesn't allow me to go on the. Okay. I'm not sure. So maybe you're able to see it on the slide screen mode. It doesn't allow me on this. Hold on.
So what I have is on my screen is truly integrative STEM, a definition. That is the screen
Sure.
I can see.
I'll have to stop sharing for a minute because my PPT seems to have some issue. Let me just stop sharing for a minute and then I'll start sharing the screen. Sir, you're able to see my PPT?
No, sir, still the same.
Okay, let me see. Interesting. I'm trying to figure out why it wouldn't allow me to share. Just give me.
So maybe you can stop sharing and then start again. Stop sharing once.
I did that.
So do you want me to run that PPT from my system?
You could do that as well. However,
Sorry to interrupt. Your PPT is shared, sir. Only thing is you need to make it to the presentation mode.
correct. What is happening is it isn't allowing me to suddenly, now it doesn't allow me anymore to make it into the presentation mode. But now, is it visible now? Is it on the presentation mode for you now?
No, sir. It's in the normal mode. Not yet. It is,
Okay, let me
we can
try
have
and
computer screen, in fact.
But your screen shares are actually the same previous screen share is still in a thing actually. Activation.
The screen has
use
frozen.
the integrative skill.
Praveen, sir,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah,
try.
my screen is.
Yeah.
Yes, now it's coming, sir.
No, now we can see you, sir.
Yeah, it'll come in a while.
Okay. Okay. Are you able to see the screen right now that you see is truly integrative STEM definition? Is that the screen the audience is seeing?
No, sir, it is saying that you are starting to share the content. So it will take a while, maybe 10,
Okay.
15 seconds that it takes.
Okay.
Meantime, sir can address the doubts.
Okay. Trying to share. Okay, let's see.
Yes, it will come.
Okay, please let me know if you are able to see the screen which says, why does iSTEM work? Okay, fair enough.
Yes, sir.
Dhirenji,
Yes,
you do see the screen that says why iSTEM, right? Okay, fantastic. So quickly recapping, I was talking about why does iSTEM work. iSTEM works in developing the attitudes and competencies in children to face the future because it challenges them with a real world problem, forces them or gives them an opportunity to use technology to solve the problem, and by solving it, and solve it by using concepts from different disciplines, and in the process it emphasizes the developed 21st century skills, and it scaffolds them by using design thinking framework as it goes through the curriculum, as it goes through the experience. That is what iSTEM does, and which is why it is very successful in getting children to develop those competencies. Okay, with that sum up of what has happened previously, let me go talk to you about what 21st century skills are. There is an organization body called P21R, a research body, which has come up with a definition of what those skills should be. Right? Broadly, they fall under three buckets: thinking skills, digital skills, and life skills. Most of those or would have already planned to do that in some way, fashion in the school. So we are talking about creative thinking, we are talking about communication, critical thinking, we're talking about initiative. I think the most important ones that we need to also talk about is information fluency. In this world where there is so much of information, the information is exploding day by day. I think information fluency is a key skill that needs to be developed in children. So these are the skills that an iSTEM program seeks to develop in children. Okay. Few facts. We did touch on some of them. STEM innovations have always powered, right? Should always power, the civilizational spread, right? Whether it is the Hittites, whether it is the British Empire, it is innovations like iron weapons, which is Hittites, crossbow. You talk about the Mongols, gunpowder and steamships, the British Empire. So great civilizations, great empires have always been powered by STEM innovations, and which is why building that mindset becomes important. All of us have been affected by STEM innovations. Today we are forced to speak in English because the British figured out the steamships and gunpowder much before us, right? And so STEM is very, very crucial in shaping how history has evolved. Right. Modern STEM movement, it's an interesting story for those of you that like a bit of history. Right? Russians sent the first probe or satellite into the space. Right? So US sat up at that point, and then it triggered what is called as the Sputnik moment. I'm sure most of you are familiar. Sputnik was the vessel that the USSR used at that point of time. So it started as Sputnik moment in US, right? We are lagging. We are falling behind. We will not be the superpower. And that started the modern STEM movement in the world as we know it, as it exists today. Right? STEM jobs are the fastest growing segment. I have old statistics. I'm sure the statistics is a lot more than that right now. In 2008, there were 8.65 million STEM jobs in place. Right? I would, however, like to outline a difference. In United States, their problem is getting enough people to work with STEM. Our problem here in India and our neighbor Pakistan is getting children to develop skills. STEM, they use, United States uses to, the approach they use is to develop interest in STEM, whereas we should focus on using the same pedagogy, same philosophy, but to develop skills, aptitudes in our children. And the way their education system is geared to somehow do that slightly better than ours. So our focus of STEM in the country while we do it should be different. Okay. What are the goals? And we talked about it. So basically, I mean, it's interesting. The placement is interesting. The student has to basically evolve into a self-reliant problem solver. He has to evolve into an innovator that can use technology to solve problems, right? And he should be a logical thinker while keeping customer in mind, which is he has to be design-minded logical thinker. Not everything is driven by logic, but it is driven by the customer. It is driven by the design element. So those are the goals of a good STEM program, right? I mean, a child goes through a STEM program, he comes out with these traits. Right? We talked about STEM, we talked about iSTEM. What drives STEM? What are the cogs that define the program? How does it, if you were to do a STEM, whether online or offline in your school, what are the core elements of STEM which are important, right? There are 5: curriculum, technology, implementation. Who are you partnering with to do that, whether it is an internal partner or an external partner, and the space where you are doing it. All of this elements are important for a great STEM program. We'll talk about curriculum. All right. Curriculum has to be transdisciplinary, real-world projects. Right. This is not topic-wise. We spoke about it in the previous slides as well. That STEM, iSTEM should basically focus on integrating various disciplines. Right. So one of the questions that I get when we speak about STEM is, okay, will this replace my physics class? Will this replace my mathematics class? No, it does not, right? It is a transdisciplinary program. It does not replace the concept teaching that happens. Right? It should focus. So I have a computer science class that I already do. Then why do I need to do STEM? The STEM's focus is developing 21st century learning skills as an integral component. It is not just the mastery of technology or disciplinary content. Right? Now, computer science becomes a tool for us to deliver STEM learning, probably, but teaching computer science is not the essence of a STEM program, right? It is a mix of guided, problem-based, and project-based challenges, not just guided technologies. Right? I think the most important one is how do you assess, right? The assessment should not be summative, right? Where there is a paper you give at the end of it and demands and ask them to answer, and you know, we all know how summative assessments work. It has to be an ongoing multi-format using various models, informal assessment techniques where you talk to the student, you observe how they are working, you know, you interact with them, get them to present. That becomes an important tool to assess because you are looking for 21st century skills. Right? We spoke about this, the next point previously as well. It should use a thinking process, breaking down the problem into small steps so that they go through the right process of building the solution. Right? So the focus is not model creation. focus is not completing the solution, rather it should be on the process of using design thinking as part of developing the or as part of completing what they are doing, right? Again, I think the last point is what I touched on. It works with application of concepts. It is not teaching concepts. A good STEM program focuses on application of concepts. It doesn't teach them what they are, right? And the concepts are not just science and mathematics. It is also from other disciplines as well. Okay, these are, when you look at a program and then you want to say, okay, is this program right or not? This slide will probably help you evaluate the program, provides you certain parameters to evaluate the program, right? As far as the design of the, the curriculum that they are offering as part of the program. So how do you design that, right? I mean, a program which can do everything that we talked about should rely on 4 important components, right? What are the pedagogies you use for a good STEM program, right? What different disciplines you bring in, right? How do you make it engaging, right? How do you make it result oriented? So these are the important elements of a design of a good STEM program, right? The pedagogies that we should use, we talked about it: integrated STEM, design thinking, or the core. It has to be designed to be very experiential as well, right? It has to be an experiential program. The curriculum has to be an experiential curriculum, right? I think the most important thing also should, a STEM program should not rely on one technology or one element, right? You can't bring in robotics and then say robotics is an important element, but it can't be the sole element. You have to have diverse constructible sets. In a class of 30, you might have 20 students who love robotics. There would be 10 students who hate it. So you should give up a choice and for them to engage with the program. So it should focus on different technologies. It should focus on different constructible sets to make it really, really engaging. And the output should not just be artifacts, but it should prototypes, but it should be artifacts. When I say artifacts, it should be the design briefs that they produce, the journals, the portfolios they create. Sorry?
So carry on, sir.
Okay, all of them become important elements of the output of the program, right? Output is not just a model that you print, which is a prototype, but the other 3 elements as well. So you need to keep this in mind when, I mean, for example, if your school gives you a mandate that you have to design a STEM program for yourself, a STEM curriculum for yourself or by yourself, then these are the elements that you have to keep in mind, right? Okay, STEM, basically the T and E, right? These are technologies. Those are the core elements, right? And what are the considerations for technologies? What technologies can I use when I'm looking at adapting a STEM program, right? There are various buckets. There is engagement, appropriateness. Does it allow for divergent thinking? Is it value for money? Does it allow for integration? These are the various important considerations to adapt technologies, right? Student engagement, for example, we spoke about it, it should cater to a wide range of student interests and capabilities. It has to be very safe to use, right? I think one of the most important elements is it has to have low risk of obsolescence, right? You should not adapt a technology which is going to be obsolete in a year's time, right? Or even if it is going to be obsolete in a year's time, your program should be such that it can be easily upgraded to work with the latest version of the technology you choose to work with. I probably think that is most important, because otherwise you'll end up spending too much money and your budget is going to overshoot, right? It should allow for divergent thinking, right? It is not, for example, I hated this in my chemistry class where, there was this drop that falls and some color changes. We used to call them titrations. And, it should not be a one-pass kind of a experiment that it should allow for. It should allow for different kinds of solutions that children can think of, right? I think the most important part is, technology is evolving. Like, for example, you talk about IoT, right? IoT should, any IoT solution that you adapt as part of your STEM mandate should work with other components in the ecosystem, like, apps that allow for app building, technologies like Integromat that will allow you for communication systems so that children can easily build and develop real life models. So that integration between various ecosystems becomes an important consideration. So these are various technology considerations. So what I'm trying to do here also is to share with you some basic elements and criteria that you could use to assess or develop your own STEM curriculum, right? I think one of the core elements of what we want inside one of the important costs for a good STEM program is also the space, right? It should be welcoming, bright, well-lit, safe place, vibrant. You should allow visual thinking. Children should be able to draw everywhere, write everywhere, make that space their own, right? Doodle, spray paint, whatever, right? It should have sufficient PowerPoints. Internet should be really, really good. And more importantly, I think the whole space where you run your program should celebrate the student success, right? That's a core important element. Because when you start celebrating, it serves as a core motivator for student to do better, to do more in that space. And more the student does, more he becomes proficient with 21st century skills. So celebrating space for that, means for that in that space becomes truly important. So these are some of the considerations for the space. Right? I think one of the last things is, the partner that you want to basically bring in. And when I say partner, I'm not just talking about companies. I'm also talking about if you want to hire someone, if you want to bring in, you want to develop your own internal team for developing STEM. These are the 5 elements that you need to keep in mind that the team should bring in, right? They should be primarily a technology person or a technology company with core interest in education. You can't get an education company or a educator, a disciplinary educator to develop. I'm not saying they can't, but you should prefer to see if they have a technology mindset and then also a core interest in education, right? You will never get it right in the first place, right? The implementation, the delivery of the program has to be fine-tuned over multiple academic cycles, right? So you want to prefer somebody that has done it for a long time and has done it over multiple schools, multiple years. So that's important, right? The problem with technology is obsolescence. It is evolving so fast, right? So ability to continue to make the curriculum relevant for the latest technologies around is important. It should evolve with the innovations in the technology and engineering space, right? And whoever brings all of this in should be somebody that understands the pedagogy that we spoke previously, all the pedagogical elements we spoke previously, and is able to bring that understanding into developing the curriculum. Not just focus on the kid, right? I mean, somebody who knows electronic chips is not necessarily, that knowing that is not the only skill set you require to develop an effective STEM program. Pedagogy is equally important, right? Empathy, people who understand what children will go through in these programs. Children will experience, right? And all of that, right? STEM basically isn't something which is not taking those things into consideration. I'll give you an example, particularly CBSE schools can relate, right? CBSE at some point brought in what was mandated as CCE, right? Continuous curriculum, whatever, right? CCE evaluation. And as part of CCE, I think we were all required to do projects where children can demonstrate what they have learned in a practical way, right? STEM exactly does that. STEM focuses on basically getting them to take the learning objectives from the classroom and use that in a technology or engineering environment to essentially showcase their understanding and apply that concept knowledge to solve a problem. The only difference between CCE and this is, I don't know if it's really a difference, but at least the way CCE was implemented and STEM talks about not just one concept, but concepts from multiple disciplines. So So I think the right way to look at it is separate three elements out, right? Think of the technology you want to use. For example, I want to bring in how democracy works, or whatever. You pick up those concepts, and then you create your problem statement around that, right? And then get children to apply their knowledge of making a video, editing it, and all of that to create that. And now, when you do something like that, then suddenly you have a program or a module in your school which basically integrates social sciences and English language skills with technology that you have learned in. So that is how you think of bringing in a good STEM module into your classroom. Now, where do you find space for it? We will talk about it, but I think government today, CBSE itself, most state boards, at least the Andhra state board, they're all saying free up space for stuff like this. Right? In Andhra, at least the state government is saying every Saturday is a no-back day, and you have to create space for programs like STEM. Right? CBSE is now talking about reducing the curriculum load and bringing in more practical application. So the timetable problem should probably be taken care of in days to come. But integrating it, this is how you integrate multiple subjects with a technology of your choice to bring in. I think I'll also address a question which came in pre-K. Right? There are various technologies that you could bring in and use for pre-K. Right? For example, bricks, right? Like the simple Lego bricks, is a powerful technology tool that you can use to have STEM program built around for students of pre-K or grade 1, right? Because bricks are powerful tools to help them master concepts like skip counting, identification of colors, how do colors come together, all of that. And if you can build your curriculum around these concepts, they're very, very powerful. Right? There are apps, there are games that are out there that you could always use to essentially develop STEM for pre-K as well.
So there is one more question which I feel I should ask. It is from somebody called Sarita. How does one measure STEM-based impact on students?
Right. So I think the most important element is the artifacts, right? So, for example, any STEM output results in prototype, right? However, a good STEM program doesn't dictate what that prototype should be or what is the output of that. Let me give you an example for this, right? For example, if we talk about the same problem I had earlier, wherein you're saying build a machine that let's use a slightly different example, right? Build a machine that crinkles paper. Crinkle paper, the ones that we use for in birthdays for decoration, or you use it for packaging. That is crinkle paper, right? So think of how do you build a crinkle paper? Is a problem that you gave them, right? Now, crinkle paper machine uses engineering, mechanical engineering, right? Now, when children essentially go ahead to solve that problem, what is the problem that you want them to solve? Right? I have seen children use or redefine the problem of building a crinkle paper machine by saying, I'm building a crinkle paper machine that is extremely safe to use, and then you focus on the safety. Then somebody else might say, look, I want to build a crinkled machine that crinkles paper on either side. Somebody else will say, no, I want to crinkle a thick paper, right? Not a really, really thick paper, maybe a board paper, right? So each child picks up, depending on the use that he is defining, he is picking up the problem. The effectiveness of, I think the core effectiveness of a STEM program is on the variety of problem definitions that you see and the detailing of the design brief that you see. I think that would be one core measurement. The other measurement that you would potentially use is you get them to present, talk about who is their user, why they have built it, what problem they have solved for the user, why, that self-reflection by the child and listening to their presentation and grading it based on a rubric becomes the best way to evolve or effectively measure the effectiveness of any STEM program that you have implemented. Variety of thoughts, different ideas that have come up, detailing of the prototype before it is built, and reflection of the child on how what he has built or he has built solve the problem. I think those are the 5 important elements of an effective method. Okay, fair enough. Dhirenji, should I move forward? Did I lose you guys?
Sorry, I was on mute. Happens. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I have before we move forward, I have one question which I would want the answer from Venki sir, because since he's the implementation in charge at Creya. Venki sir, there's a question which says, how do you support STEM learning in remote areas? So would you mind sharing experiences of Creya where, in remote areas or maybe with government schools, how have you worked?
I did see that question typed. Don't know the educator's name, but I guess what he meant by remote areas could be spoken in 2 facets of it. One is, of course, when we say remote, these are small towns where the partner or the school has access to some technologies. So it's just a question of the partner's ability to be able to service and provide the same program just as he would be doing to any regular school in a metro. But if I understood that question, and I will let Praveen also add to my response, is the access to tools itself. I guess internet connection to the type of device, to access to tablets or all the so-called gadgetry that we are talking about when we visualize a STEAM studio, right? So I think if you understand the true spirit of what STEAM is, it is the ability of uh, using a technology. And like Praveen said, even a pen or a paper is a technology. So it is the creative approach of the educator to be able to allow children to see what is the available everyday material, give a problem statement, and then ask them to be able to build a solution. Okay, a simple straw to paper, cardboard, or some of the most advanced so-called STEM classes in the US that I have had access to visit, and experts come from, say that we don't even use all of these technologies. It is just everyday available material that allows children to express their creativity. So that is one aspect of it. And the second is there are quite a few free resources, fantastic resources that explain activities as to what one could do at home or at a place where there is no access to a space with all the gadgetry and children come together. So I think there are quite a few well developed resources that are available. We could we could share some of those resources to Mr. Bora from Assam and to others that are interested in that question.
So there's one more question from Mr. Azim, which Venki sir, again, I would want you to answer. Effective STEM development needs experts and it changes with time. There are people who would come and deliver, STEM, but then these people leave the organization. So do we have such organization with experts who can help us? So my answer is yes. Creya is one such organization, though in the beginning we had decided that we are not going to speak much about Creya, but we are going to speak about STEM. But Creya is one such organization, where we have a school in Shillong, which has come up this year, and that school has STEM learning, and up hills in Shillong, the program is running very successfully. So there are organizations, yes, Venki sir.
Yeah, but like you said,
how does Creya work?
No, I would rather, I can answer that, but to answer the question, should we always depend on experts is the real question to be answered, because depending on a so-called expert is always putting you at the mercy of somebody. So I think the concept should be institutionalized in the process and the program design So I would say any good STEM program and the training that comes with it should enable. There are three stages of STEM, which is the models of how much a school is immersed in STEM, right? So a good lesson plan to run the program's design itself should be able to make any teacher run the program effectively. And the next stage is when those teachers themselves become master trainers in running the program. And the third stage is when those teachers of the school themselves are able to design a new STEM module. So those are the three stages of true understanding of the STEM. So while it is important to have and partner with experts or expert organizations, whether it is Creya or ABC, I think our intent is to be able to take schools through these three stages where eventually they are able to design STEM programs on their own, just like a Creya module. Did I answer that?
Sorry, I was on mute. So we have a question from Rachel Sugandhi. She says, I have a question and allow me to ask it with audio. Yes, Rachel, ma'am, maybe we can allow you to speak.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Praveen. I just have two things. First thing is that you made it very, very clear because there was a very great misunderstanding to a lot of educationalists about STEM, thinking that this is a separate and a module that has to be introduced in schools, but basically it is a strategy that we need to integrate with our subjects. I think you made it very clear with that. I just want to add that I myself have researched on this for quite some time in kindergarten, and you've given an example. I just want to share one example of kindergarten. The thing is, when we are teaching a rhyme of Three Little Pigs, we introduced STEM in that, right? We gave clay and straws to kids and may ask them to make their own home, just like how the Three Little Pigs have made their own home. So it is that simple strategy and a strategy that teachers have to build in their own classrooms, right? So thanks for making that as very clear. But my question is, in today's schooling, I mean, even now in 21st century, when we understand that STEM is or STEAM is the most important thing to be introduced in the classrooms, at least to keep up the curiosity of the kids, okay, because the kids are so curious to learn. But somewhere we are still falling back and a little apprehensive of introducing these concepts in the class because some schools or some teachers or some educationals still believe that we cannot judge children based on their creative levels and
Hello.
learning tables.
Rachel ma'am,
Yeah?
can you keep your question concise, please?
Yes, I'm just coming to that. So I just want to know, or maybe by the end of your presentation, can you please give us a clarity of any school where this has been implemented and what is the result that has come out and how did it differ from the system that you followed previously? And what is the difference in the level of students' understanding after you implemented this program? In with numbers, can you give us a clarity about that?
Praveen sir, can you hear us? Are we audible?
Dhirenji,
Sir.
I have heard the question. Okay. So if I understood, Rachel ma'am wanted to know as to something like a pre-test and a post-test before introduction of a typical STEAM program, its effectiveness, what factors have changed. Is that correct, Rachel ma'am?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Right, right. Two things. I think that's a question that's loaded with a lot of things that can be debated, because there are quantitative measures and qualitative measures. We, in fact, had a slide that talked about some of the schools that we believe are successful with an introduction of the STEM program. But I think I would take this offline with you because for two reasons. One, that's a question that has to be, that's a point that has to be addressed by a interactive. I say something, then you ask me something, probably that will not have everything for the audience. And we are yet to cover some slides on how do we move. What Praveen has talked till now is about how does a STEM or a STEAM program work in a regular school. But I think we all got coronified. So does all this still be relevant till the next year when everything is back to normal? In the meantime, how do we still run a so-called effective STEAM program to the extent it is possible? I think that's what we would like to cover in the subsequent slides. So if you, and I think the time given to us is about an hour. Is that fine?
Yes, sir, but everybody's seems to be loving the whole discussion, so we do not mind stretching it for a while. In fact, Praveen sir just wrote to me that he has a network glitch and he's shifting his network, so he'll be back in a while. Yes, so somebody, Mr. Preetham Kumar Panda is asking a question. In fact, Mr. Panda, that was my second question. And maybe by the time Praveen sir comes in, we would request Venki sir to answer. Venki sir,
Yeah.
there are many schools currently facing challenges today to conduct online classes. We have governments like Karnataka state government saying that do not, yes, Praveen sir is back. So, we have organizations which are saying that, governments which are saying that no classes, online classes till grade 5, no classes till grade 7, whatever. Now, in this scenario, as an organization, why did you choose to go online?
Okay. One, we need to be continuing in business. So that's the obvious question. I think for two reasons, there are a lot of difficulties in going online with so many experts around. With me, Praveen, you, and all, we still have issues with this webinar itself, right? There are so I think we can imagine the kind of problem that can arise for schools with the diversity of geographies and access to technologies. So governments, educators, everybody has an opinion on should we go. So I don't think my opinion on should we go, not go is really going to make a difference. Now, having decided that that is the only way to continue education for the time to come, okay, assuming how do we ensure that the continuity of learning of STEM for educators that have already adopted STEM, what is the way forward of enabling that? And for those who believe that now I have some time that is available because I'm not covering too many things, can I add skills? How do I engage children? I think those are all actually parts of a slide that Praveen is going to cover as to what aspects of the STEM that we have discussed in the first 45 to 50 minutes, how can they be transported even if it is going to be an online class? Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, Venki sir, while I was writing these questions, so I would like to tell the audience that these questions were not really discussed with Praveen sir or Venki sir. And, while I was, framing these questions yesterday, when I wrote, why did you decide to go online? So there was something which came to my mind, which I would like to add here, is that, this is a tough time, right? Nobody knows what has to be done. And, so STEM is all about, STEM and design thinking are all about innovation. Now, today, the crisis we are in, there is somebody who's trying to innovate and find a vaccine or a cure to this whole pandemic. So maybe, in these times when innovation is needed the most for everybody to kind of find out, the answers for their lives, their future, maybe a design thinking and a STEM approach would be important.
Yeah, Dhiren, I think you have answered it better than me. So
we will have to see if Praveen sir is there, because he had network issues.
Praveen, are you there?
No, I think he's just logged out.
Okay.
Venki sir, do you want me to present that slide? And you want to carry on with it?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I will just... Yes, so I have the content with me.
Okay. So while you set up that slide, what I would like to share with the audience is STEM is not a copyrighted word of anybody. I hear some of the organizations talk about saying this is STEM certified. There's a lot of marketing around appropriating what is STEM. So it is not a copyrighted word. There is no one organization that can say that this is STEM and this is not STEM. Okay. So educators, I think, is very important when somebody approaches them and say, I am STEM. Okay. Or I am the only STEM. Anything that adds value in helping children apply their classroom concepts is a fantastic STEM or STEAM product. The second question, at least I hear in educator circles is, okay, are you STEM or STEAM? Okay, I think frankly this is all semantics. Integrative STEM or STEM in its true sense was always about bringing all disciplines, and all disciplines always meant arts as well. Okay, so but since marketing guys need new semantics to create new brochures and to approach educators, so this is the evolution in marketing, not understanding of STEM or STEAM itself. So I think it's important to know that STEM, integrative, STEAM are all the same as long as it is understood in the spirit of helping children connect classroom theories across all the 5 disciplines to problem solving that they see in the 4 walls, outside the 4 walls of the school.
Okay. Praveen sir, are you back? I see you there. Venki sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Praveen sir, are you there? Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So would you want to take this, Venki sir?
Yeah. For the benefit of the time of the audience,
Yes.
this is Sunday, and I don't think this is the best thing holding up their Sunday time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think what we have seen till now is about what a good STEAM program is, and I think this is something educators can talk about. What happened to them, not just STEM programs, but in general, what happened to schools. So there is time lost. Within a given day, the time given to the educator itself is reduced, which means the only option that they have to do for subjects, for skills, and everything is going online. So it is not something specific to just STEAM, but everything has to go online till children come back to schools, right? So we will see how do we take STEAM online without losing its effectiveness. Yeah, can you go to the next?
Sir.
Yeah. So before taking STEAM to online, we can always question as to why should we take STEAM online, right? Like you have pointed out earlier, if at all there is any time that we have figured out innovation around user behavior, around medical technologies, around learning, everything has been disrupted. So this is innovation is the need of the hour, and STEAM learning is one way to take it forward. Okay. The second reason from a student's point of view is, and I have my own kid who attends online classes, I think it's very difficult uh, to keep on learning academic concepts without having the fun of a classroom, right? So, how do we bring back the fun element? Probably STEM activity that they could do brings back the fun element. A third point is STEM programs typically are uh, driving learners to become autonomous. Okay, it is about their ability to learn something on their own. So that, in a way, indirectly promote the effectiveness of the the online classes that they take in their other subjects as well, right? And what one of the biggest things that children miss by not going to school is the ability to interact with each other. While you can still run your own social studies project as well to become interactive, then you are slowly actually making it a STEM project where you're asking them to collaboratively make a video like Praveen was talking about. Then it is in a way also a STEM program where the concepts of script writing from the English language arts and your social studies concept of constitutional topics have all been merged. So these are the reasons why you would want to include STEM as part of your academic calendar in the online learning phase. Right? So these are some of the reasons why, despite all the difficulties of online learning with the academic subjects itself, you want to include a STEM activity as well. Can we go to the next slide?
Sure, sir. Yes.
Okay. So when we are taking STEM online or STEAM online, what do you have to consider? I think the ability to cater to the diverse skill levels. So you cannot have a program that only the top most interested student and the top skill or the top ranker can attempt or be interested in. So the design of the program itself should ensure that it has an escalator or a scaffolding so that students at any level can actually step in. And then and when I say within a class there is diversity, between a metro schools there is diversity, and between metro to tier 2 town, so there's a lot of diversity given our historical disparities, right? So a program that is online should allow a point of entry that will cater to the lowest, least motivated student to somebody who is like super duper and he can skim through and go to the highest level. So that's point number one, that is part of any online program. Second is about, of course, while you are trying to teach a tool which could be programming or an IoT tool through simulation or a 3D design or digital media, all of these are tools, which is 70%. But we should ensure that whatever online STEM program or STEAM program you are taking actually is bringing in concepts that are part of your academics. Third, support for collaboration and self-assessments. Is there, so we typically associate journaling with a logbook, which is a physical logbook. Today, I don't think you can give a logbook to students because the regular channel of book distribution is disrupted, right? So is your online STEAM program allowing for journaling, allowing for them to document their experiences, allowing for them to reflect and then write? So that's an important part of a true STEM program. So just getting them to code, there are dime a dozen thousands of coding programs out there. So are they good? Yes, they are good. Do you want them to be called as a true STEAM program taken online? Maybe no, because the part of the self-reflection, journaling, documenting, and saving them and sharing with their teachers, is that happening? That's the question we have to ask. Allow for empathy and engagement through incorporation of design thinking. So, is the program over the life of its module, when you are doing a certain module, you are starting from something like, as we would call in our Creya terminology, a boot camp that gives you exposure to the technology. Then you're doing a guided activity, which is what you would typically do when you can buy a Lego kit from a shop. Then what? Then is where you're talking about a real world problem. You're asking them to apply design thinking, and then you're trying to get them to build and prototype to solve for that real world problem. So is this all part of a seamless program that is end to end well thought out? That is when the student is engaged and is involved in it towards its completion. Otherwise, there are so many webinars also where people just log in and then sabzi kaatne ke liye chale jate hain. So could it happen with even any online? I'm sorry, but it can happen. Either the presenter or the host, none of them know what is happening, right? So even with online learning, there is a very high possibility of that happening. Only when the program is designed to ensure their wholehearted empathy into it, I think that's when the learning outcomes that are supposed to come will come. Yeah.
Next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. So if those are the considerations, what will make a STEAM class effective? Like device agnostic. I can't have a STEAM program that runs only on iPads or that runs only on laptops, that runs only on a desktop or runs at 100 Mbps, right? Because of the diversity. We can't ask people to invest in something just because my program works with this, right? So it has to be a device agnostic uh, support for simulation of hardware tools. For example, coding, whether in school or outside of school, is something that runs with access to an app. But for something like IoT, where you're talking about resistors, capacitors, Wi-Fi chips, and all of that, how do we bring that in an online experience? Today, we are all lucky because there are simulation tools, okay, that can replicate the entire behavior of a circuitry online. So the way you connect a circuit on a breadboard and whether those LEDs should glow or not glow in a pattern based on the algorithm, what would happen in a school studio can actually happen online. And a good STEAM program should ensure that there is the simulation of the hardware aspect online, so that that feel of working in a true STEM program is not lost. Another key constraint for schools is, in a school you have the luxury of a full-fledged timetable, okay, but when it comes to online, you have packetized, you have small, you cannot see screen time for too long. There are so many constraints, parental concerns, educator concerns. Educators are divided over how much time should children spend online versus not online, right? So your STEM program should have the flexibility where the facilitator can tell as much as is required, and the student should be able to work by himself beyond the regular time. I think that flexibility allows for completion of the learning experience. Hosted and cloud, of course, I think this goes without saying. And if a program is so flexible that it can also go with the ERP of the school, then it becomes even more seamless. So a program that is allowed to be accessed through the school's own ERPs is making life easier for them, because the ERP guy has ensured that it is seamless for the school's environment and designed to work with minimal facilitator intervention. While facilitator is required to ensure that connect is there to ask the right inquiry-based questions, but there is only so much. Right now we have to mute everybody, right? Here you are able to mute everybody, but muting all students is probably not the best scenario, right? So, which means the instructional design of the STEM program should be self-serving, where the student is able to understand 80% of it and only 20% requires the facilitator intervention. So that is also an important aspect of ensuring the class happens seamlessly. Otherwise, because STEM is all about interactivity. In a regular Creya studio, the first thing we tell teachers is don't shush children. Children should be allowed to speak out. And now on online, I'm saying let us mute all of them, because it is difficult to control when 10 children are on going crazy over an unmuted session. So these are some of the considerations. I think this slide needs no explanation.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you so much. Let us check if Praveen sir is back. I think Praveen sir's network is giving him trouble.
Good, you had the idea of having a backup guy also join.
But I can see Praveen sir online. But he can't hear. That's what. Let me see if we can speak. Praveen sir, can you hear us? Are we audible? Yes. Okay. Then that, sir, your mic is on mute. Let me. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. You're back. Great. Praveen sir. We can see you clearly, Praveen sir.
Okay, let me call him. So why don't you? Actually, I think we have held up people till 12:30.
Mm-hmm. So I think we had a question from Rachel Sugandhi, ma'am, where she wanted to hear a success story as to what kind of implementation you have done in any schools where we have seen a visible change in the kids. Do you mind sharing that any case study with us, Praveen sir, Venki sir? Hello. One second, let me unmute. We are unable to unmute Praveen sir as well. So I think Praveen sir would not be able to participate. Venki sir, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think I can. I have unmuted myself.
Yes, I can.
So, what was the question? You mean the question about the schools and like
yes,
I said,
to hear the success story.
I don't know how many of our current schools are there. So I would be in a soup if I were to pick up a certain school as a success story and not mention the others.
Maybe without the name you can share, sir.
Yeah. So I think every school that is part of our partnership, which has Creya's STEM, have had success stories to share in terms of their student effectiveness. Okay, so what we would like to say is wherever they believe they have seen success and success come in different ways, either the students have consistently won in competitions or the school has been ranked for excellence in STEM education. To us, I think those are not the only measures of success. I think where their students have come back and told that even if I were to absent myself from all classes, but this is one class I will come back even if I have taken absence because of a stomachache. I think those are the schools. Those schools where the teachers have said, I will only change my job to a school where there is STEM. Okay, Kriya STEM. Okay, to me those are the success stories. And there are schools where teachers have said, for some reason I am not leaving the school because I have been given the role to deliver Kriya classes. This has been life changing to me. So where the school leader has put herself fully into understanding what STEM is and what freedom is required to deliver it effectively, all those schools are effective in terms of STEM or STEAM. Okay, that is how I would like to answer this. In terms of statistics as to what awards they have won, how many children have improved scores on statistically valid studies about 21st century skills and academics and all, is a very long topic that requires a session beyond the interest of the rest of the audience.
Okay. Sir, we have a question. In fact, success stories. In your presentation, there was a slide which I think was not discussed. Some award-winning STEM schools and their secrets. It was written Gitanjali School, Hyderabad ICSC, STEAM learning since 2012. Awards Engineering Watch Excellence for STEAM Education. Magic Ingredient, pioneering early adoption and the first mover advantage. TVS School, that is TVS Motors Group School in Madurai, ICSC STEAM Learning since 2013, award IIT Kharagpur's Young Innovators Program. Magic Ingredient, organization with deep commitment to application of design thinking framework. Mothers Public School in Bhubaneswar, CBSE STEM Learning since 2014. Again, National CBSE Science Championship and IIT Kharagpur and Young Innovators Program, they were awarded. Cygnus World School in Baroda, STEAM Learning since 2014. NCRT Innovation in Teaching Practice Award. IIT Guwahati Tech Expo winner. Singularly committed and passionate STEAM coaches they have. Kangar Valley School in Raipur, it's a CBSE school, STEAM Learning since 2015, and they also got awarded at IIT Kharagpur's Young Innovators Program. And continuous school internal activities focused on honing interdisciplinary approaches. That's what the school does. Now there's another school in Dubai, GEMS, our own schools. They are doing the STEM learning program since 2018, and they have been nominated as GESS Innovation in STEAM Learning Teaching, and they are also committed to STEAM. And let me tell you, all these schools, whether in Hyderabad or Madurai or Baroda, Raipur or Dubai, all these schools have Creya as their STEM partner. And there's a question from Dr. Raya from Sri Sharda International School, Koppal in Karnataka. He says that the beauty of STEAM is to create skilled minds and skilled hands. At this stage, can we think of developing STEAM centers, like science centers, to spread the awareness of STEAM to maximum students? Thank you, sir. Your opinion on this? Do you think, as an organization, you can develop isolated STEAM centers in various parts of the country?
In fact, there was a proposal from the government, from the highest level, asking us to take up a certain part of the science museums across the country which have large spaces, and to take a small piece of it and then convert them into the kind of spaces Dr. Rai has been talking about it. There was a proposal, and we were in fact selected for that. And then, as usual, I think there were political complications at the highest level, and that fell out. I think the onus of doing that is upon all of us. While we can transform science centers, we can talk about ATLs that are in some way doing that. We can talk about each school becoming a center, and in fact, we work with the TVS group where village knowledge centers have become are delivering this, which can be a temple, a community hall, and all of that. And just before you remove this slide on the success, if you look at the success secret, the only secret of success is the school's team and leadership being committed to that cause. It is not Kriya, it is not the program design and anything. Okay. So I think where the school leadership and if they are lucky to have a team that is interested, engaged, and committed to that team, those schools can make any STEM program become a wonderful STEM program.
There is a request from about 6-7 people, Venki sir, that this presentation, what Praveen sir and you have shared, they want a copy of this presentation to be mailed to them.
Yeah.
So if we have got the approval from Venki sir and Praveen sir, we have everybody's mail ID. See, all of you have registered, and we have everybody's mail ID.
Yeah.
I will share it with you all. I mean, my Life EDUCARE's IT team will send each one of you the mail.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. We have somebody, Mr. Ramesh Bharadwaj from Doon School. He's also asking for the presentation. Mr. Bharadwaj, it will be mailed to you, to everybody. Any questions? In the end, after every towards the end of every webinar, we take 2 questions. So maybe 2 of you can come online. Come on voice and ask questions.
No, I think we have a question on: is it a right time to introduce STEM in teacher training program? I think, Ms. Sarita, that's a very relevant question in terms of there is no STEM program in a school that can run effectively without the teachers buying into the importance of it and then being trained to run it effectively. So I think an effective STEAM / design thinking focused professional development being included as part of the school's training calendar is very important. Whether the school runs STEM program or not, I think it is very important for teachers to be given access to a good quality STEM professional development program, STEM / design thinking program. Because the moment they get access to or are trained on it, whether the school buys any program or not, they themselves are able to introduce small bits and pieces of it in their regular classrooms, which is a great start.
We are unable to hear you, Venki sir.
Unable to hear me?
Yeah, now it's better.
Oh, I thought I answered the question. Should I repeat?
Yeah, please do that. So in between, we lost you for 10-15 seconds.
Okay. I'm saying, yeah, maybe Praveen wants to answer.
Okay.
What I was
Carry on, sir.
what I was mentioning is that irrespective of whether a school takes up a STEM program formally for their children or not.
I agree with what Venki said. Venki said that teacher training.
No, I think we've lost Praveen sir again. Venki sir, you'll have to continue.
Okay. Yeah. So irrespective of whether students are given access to a formal STEM program from vendor in-house developed or not, the first thing that a school should do is to be able to include STEM / design thinking training as part of their calendar, so that they are able to include and modify their own classes, and to the extent possible bring in elements of that engagement and empathy and STEM into the regular classes. So I think as a country, the education ecosystem will only change when every teacher understands the significance of STEM, where the Hindi teacher or the Sanskrit teacher or the social studies teacher doesn't ask, what has STEM got to do with my subject? I think that's the day we have laid the foundation for a nation of innovation.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other questions? Otherwise, we are like 45 minutes past time.
Okay. So
we have Bhagya from SNV Global. How do you evaluate design ideas? So I think Bhagya, you already have a Creya program running in your school.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, my question is, do we use SWOT analysis? Is there any relationship between the SWOT analysis and the STEM? I mean, there's a design ideas, evaluation of design ideas, SWOT analysis.
So if you are talking about SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, so that is something that you would be able to apply not just for a design thinking perspective, but that's more at a ecosystem level. You would do a SWOT analysis for an opportunity at a country level, okay, or an industry level, okay. Whereas typically, if you're talking about the design ideas that a school student would be exposed to, they would not be looking at the ecosystem level. They are like, okay, I am trying to address a singular specific problem of a user. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think probably expecting children to be able to use SWOT analysis is asking them too much, and the time frame that is available within a school is probably not
Can I interrupt? Because I've heard that this can be evaluated in 3 types, that is pass-fail evaluation and evaluation matrix or SWOT analysis. So I do not know which can be applicable as you for the students level. That's my query.
Yeah. I can answer that. Praveen, are you there?
No, Praveen sir is not there.
Praveen sir is not there. Okay. So
okay, no problem.
Yeah. So when you set out, I think one of the points that Praveen said is the ability to allow for a diversity of approaches to solve a problem, right? That is the foundation stone of a design thinking approach. So the moment you have said allow for multiple approaches, you are not boxing it. Okay. As an organization and as a believers or one of the earliest exponents of design thinking and its place in education, we were always wary about any quantitative analysis of the solutions that children build. Okay.
Yeah.
So any binary pass fail, any quarterly SWOT analysis, anything that you are trying to box in will only kill the creativity. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify. Yes.
Yeah. So,
if I may add, Venki, in fact, SWOT is such a not the right way to go about evaluating design ideas, because no idea is bad. You could only evaluate it for its completeness. Whether it is good or bad comes on the evaluation stage of the prototype. And so the beauty with design thinking particularly is you can always use it to fine tune the problem, not just the solution. So the idea itself, if you can evaluate it for completeness, meaning is the user specified, the need specified, constraint specified, why does the problem work? And when we prototype it, does it solve the problem like what we have? And if that analysis is complete, then that is a great way to evaluate and then further refine it based on the findings that are coming out of the idea.
Then we have a question from Sarita. Sarita is asking, is Creya as an organization ready to conduct standalone teacher training programs for mentors, teachers, and facilitators, even if they are not even if they are a part of a school system or not, whether they are your clients for Creya program, do you also have something, or are you willing to only train the teachers for STEM?
Praveen, should I take that?
We haven't done that so far, okay, but that doesn't mean we can't do that. We do it primarily for the schools that we work with so far. But if there are enough requests, then maybe we could consider that.
Yeah. So, in fact, teachers help teachers. One of the, at least the founder has said that she is one of the largest aggregation of teachers is trying to work with us to bring access to our STEM PD to teachers in general, right? So there is a request we do, and our STEM PD is agnostic to the tools that are part of Creya Studio, so any teacher could benefit from it. But we haven't gone ahead and done that with teachers of other schools. We could do it, so we are not close to that idea.
Any other question? Otherwise, I would like to thank everybody and conclude the session.
Yeah,
I had not done the introduction part. You all must have thought that we just started with the questions, and I have deliberately not introduced both the speakers in the beginning, because after hearing them, when you know what they have done, that will be a different kind of thing to remember. So coming back to Praveen and his experience, Praveen has been instrumental in design thinking, in designing and developing Creya program. And before co-founding Creya in 2012, he has been 2011, Praveen, right? Yes, 2011. He was the director of Knowledge Universe Education Digital, which is KUED. It's a US-based organization. And Praveen was in charge of the whole thing, and he started all the offices for KUED and launched KUED in India. And before that, he worked with an organization called Versatas, which was formerly known as Trilogy. And he was also the director of the prestigious Trilogy University in US. And that was in the year 2007. So I think Venki and Praveen, and yeah, when it comes to Venki is a management graduate from MDI Gurgaon, and here he is also an engineer. And he says that as a concerned parent and a coach, I believe that the DNA of what, how, and where should prepare them for realizing their true potential. And Creya is my small attempt at building an open learning system that delivers those essential skills to our school students. And read a small introduction of Praveen and his, belief in education system. He says education is seen as ticket to land in a cushy job, but is not perceived as a means to empower children to fulfill their potential. At Creya, Praveen is most excited about helping the learners of today rediscover the joy of learning. See the joy of learning, what Rabindranath Tagore said, the joy of learning that has been missing from our schools in most of the schools. So the effort, what Creya is trying to do is to bring back that joy of learning back to the schools via collaborating, reflecting, and designing basics percepts to help them unravel all the challenges of life and excel as leaders, innovators, and change makers. And Praveen firmly believes that empowering our future generations to excel in life and to live their dream is the key to a prosperous and happy nation. And I'm sure Creya as an organization lets all the students, excel in their life, excel in their creative thinking, design thinking, and they have better application of the concept what has been taught to them in various subjects. So both of them I know for a very long time, and last 15 years both of them have been working on promoting STEAM, and Creya is an outcome of that. So on behalf of everybody, I would like to thank Praveen sir and Venki sir and all the audience. And let me tell you, we have gone 53 minutes past our scheduled 1 hour of program, but still we have out of 89 90 people were there, 64 people listening to us. Thank you so much, audience. And as live